Hi, everyone. Today on Queen Me, I am joined by somebody whose life's work sits at the intersection of storytelling, education, and empowerment. Ruth Fleury is an accomplished author, entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of Scholars of Tomorrow Publishing, a women-led consulting firm and publishing house dedicated to supporting self-published authors every step of the way. Now, she's written multiple books for children and families, including one that you've probably heard of because it is a bestseller, Hyper Kids So They Say. And all of these books just reflect her passion for literacy, inclusion, and joy, right? And she has over 15 years of experience in education. She's done so much work, whether it's an early childhood consultant helping educators meet the needs of their learners, and being a mother of five and a champion for equity in education. I'm very proud and lucky to call her a friend, and I can't wait for you all to just hear how she is just reshaping how stories are told. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me, Ashley. Thank you. It's a
Yes.
pleasure to be here.
It is, and I love the time that we get to spend together because we're talking about all of the things that you do, because you do a lot of things.
I do. Wear so many hats. So many.
So many hats. And I want to go back to the beginning. So you've written, books, you started the publishing company, you've led classrooms. Let's go all the way back. Do you
Okay.
remember sort of what sparked your love for storytelling? Like when did you realize that this is what you've wanted to do?
Right. And share with the world, right? Because I've always done it before, but I would say in 2020, 2020 during the pandemic, right? When a lot of uncertainty, everyone was lost, confused. Um, but I took that opportunity to sit and just write this story. And I guess the hurt too, because it's like it's based off a true story, thinking about my oldest son and my former kindergarten students being misunderstood. So for me in general, when there's certain things I have no question, I have no answers for, I usually just make a joke out of it, temporary, just to cope in that moment. So I guess that was one of the things that I did, like writing a story as a joke and sharing it with my family and friends, and they fell in love with it. They fell in love with it, and it was like, oh my God, you should really publish this. So then I said, okay. And then that's when I said, you know what? Let's start it. The ball rolled. Started like getting a coach, finding an illustrator, editing the story because there's some parts I wanted in it, but I said I had to end up taking it out because it's a children's book.
That is true.
I was like, why? I was like, no, I want people. But I was like, all right, fine, let's take it out. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But yeah, I would say that's when it started. The journey started.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. And your books really do tackle so many topics. I mean, there's self-love, there's cultural pride.
Right.
What I've loved about you is that your children really do inspire your writing, right? And
Me
you've mentioned
too.
that. What
Yes.
do those
Yeah.
conversations look like? Like how have those conversations been really sparked? I mean, when you're talking with your children about their own experiences and your experiences, what does that look like?
I would say one thing, and they're blessed too. We're both blessed, but people confide in me since I was young, a young child. People always said, "Oh, you're very mature for your age," but they always felt some comfort talking to me when something was bothering them, right? And that was one of the reasons why I had went to school for counseling, because I felt like I can't really meet the needs of the kids of how I would have wanted to in the classroom. So I said, you know what? Let me pursue this so that way I can still give back and actually teach them and work on the mental health and the confidence. So I feel like with my kids too, that's just that same spark. They know, like they feel comfortable that they could come and speak to me and talk to me, even if sometimes it might be a little uncomfortable. They're able to tell me and seek help. So this is how I'm able to know of some of the stories of how they felt or what's going on in school. And again, with the hyper kid, that's one of the things I was able to know and see, and I could relate because I'm a product of the schools too. I went, I know what it was like, and then also being a teacher. So all around, like I kind of I understood. And I said, you know what, let me be a voice for those children, who are misunderstood, who may be quick to be labeled or neglected, in somewhat. But again, with all the stories, it's just me seeing like the need, like I feel like there needs to be more representation in the stories for kids to see and more interesting stories as well. So it's not only representation of like the appearance, but just the stories. It has to be relatable, you know, and that's gonna make reading fun. Once the children feel like I can relate to the story or it reminds me of me or my family, then they're gonna be more interested in grabbing the book, sitting down, putting the tablet down, and start reading. So that's my goal, like making the stories relatable, representation. And again, if the child felt like they weren't understood or weren't seen, at least through the stories, they could feel that they're seen and they understand and feel empowered to keep going.
Mm, I love that so much. I really do.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Yeah,
that's key for, I think, a gap in the publishing world, right? I mean,
right.
Scholars of Tomorrow, you support self-published authors really from start to finish.
Yes.
I want people to understand a bit more about this process because people assume, I think, and I've seen this a lot, that, okay, self-publishing just looks like you put the manuscript together and you put it out on Amazon, and that's
And
that.
that's it. And then you make money, make tons of money.
Yes, yes, that's I've heard that a lot. Tell us what's it actually like? What is the world of self-publishing actually like?
Okay. Well, it's not easy, okay? Just tell you right now, guys, it's
Not
not
easy.
easy, okay? You have to put the work in. It doesn't stop. Okay. So you want to ensure that just like everything else, this is something that you're passionate about. It's your baby. And you gotta keep at it, keep showing up and you have to be consistent. I'm pretty sure you've always heard you have to be consistent. Consistency is key. It is. Because if you're not showing up for your product, for your work, why should anyone else show up? Why should they take it seriously? you know but I would say, just like anything else, it's not easy. You need to make sure you writing it down, who, and then thinking about who is my audience, who am I writing for, what is my purpose, right? Mission, vision, who, again, what I want people to get. Or if you're writing for children, what do I want the children, what's the lesson I want them to get at the end of the story? you know what problem am I trying to solve? I feel like it's really important to put that into play and just be intentional with the writing and creating your time, creating a schedule. Because if you don't create the schedule, it could get lost, and then years will go by. Like I've heard people say, I've started writing or I've written it, and it just sat there. But if you really want to do the self-publishing, I would say just create that schedule where weekly, this is the focus. Find that quiet space so that way you could get the work done. And then also having a team or hiring someone. Team doesn't Don't think it's your brother, your sister, your family, your cousins. No. People that's vested, people that have similar interests as well. So if it's like you have to hire a coach or find maybe a library that has a writing session, or just do research to see what works best for you, I would definitely say create that community also of writers. So that way you're not doing it alone. Okay. That's definitely number one. Because then you might get lost or have roadblocks and just say forget it and give up. Um, and then if you don't have anyone, hey, you could definitely, call me. Definitely reach out to me. I'm here to support you, you
Yes.
know?
Talk about the work that you do, like how you support, because you've had really successful clients and relationships. So let's hear
Yes.
about
Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, again, as you had mentioned, I start from scratch with you. So if it's something that you're worried about, like I have the thought, but it's not down on paper yet, no worries. I'll definitely send you a template with a guide and then support you along the way. Of course, you have to do the writing and come with it because I'm not in your head. I need to see it, so that way we could have something to work with. But I definitely meet with my clients weekly for 3 months. It could be 8 to 12 weeks, but again, on average, just 3 months. And we do live editing together, the brainstorming together during our sessions. You'll have me for that hour. If you have any questions, I'm there to support you along the way. I also support with finding an illustrator because I know in that journey, there's a lot of scammers like everything else, right? So I definitely support with finding an illustrator based on what you want. So you would have to look at other authors' books to see for inspiration, and then we take it from there. So I'm just support along the way, whether it's communicating with illustrators, communicating with anyone else that you feel like would need to be on this journey. I'm there to help from the beginning to the end. So you're published, and then I'm planning help you plan the book launch as well. I do that as well.
it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons you've been so successful is
Yeah.
because you have worn so many hats and you've
Yeah.
seen this in so many different ways, right? As an author yourself,
Correct.
as an educator. So if somebody reaches out to you, right, and they're interested in having you work with them,
Yes.
values really guide your decision making, like about what you want to support, what you want to help publish. What what are some of those values? What do they look like?
Yeah. I would say, so far, authors that I've been working with, when they come forward, is something that they battled with as a child, and when they look for books, they haven't seen it. And you know the saying, if you don't see the book or something that you want, then you have to create it. You have to be the change agent, change maker. So I look for that, like stories that align, like stuff that can be inspiring for children, because that's my vision. I'm a child advocate. So in everything I'm doing, I always make sure that I see the child. I make sure that child feels seen. So even in storytelling, I want to ensure that, or their inner child, fill that void. Because one of my authors, she had cancer as a child, right? That means hair loss, other things. And some kids used to make fun of her. They didn't understand. There was a lack of awareness, right? But now, today, she changed that. She wrote a story about her experience, you know, and now going in to talk about it, maybe there's a child that's experiencing that now, or children experiencing that. Now they'll be able to start building awareness, having that conversation. So when they do see someone who look like that, it could just be more empathetic and be more supportive, right? Because we do have to give kids grace. If they're not taught better, then they don't know better. But again, I'm using my platform, my brand, to just through stories bring awareness, to them, and also empowerment.
I love it. I love it. And it's true. If somebody connects to that work, right? They have that relationship.
Yeah.
It's just going to be so much, has just a deeper meaning, I
Deeper
feel.
meaning, correct, correct. And another author, she wrote about her, and she always wanted to write a book with her child, with her son. And that was always a vision, a dream. And she wrote it, but she lost the manuscript. So she had to start all over. But the story was in her head. So it was a matter of putting on paper and having that motivation. So I was there cheering, being her cheerleader, cheering her on. But with her story, she also put history in there in that book. And it's like, even if a child never went on a road trip before, through her book, they can experience that. They can have that, use their imagination to go through that experience with the illustrations and the details. So it's really powerful. Storytelling is really powerful, especially when it's intentional and meaningful. Yeah.
I love that. I really do. And one thing that makes you very unique and equipped to do this, especially when you're thinking about, you know, children's books, right, is that you've had experience as an early childhood director, as a consultant. You've worked with teachers, right?
Definitely.
What
Yeah.
shifts have you seen, or maybe that you hope to see, in how we teach literacy and honor diverse learning styles?
Okay. I would definitely say making the stories more interesting. Because I'm gonna say, for me, like growing up, me and my peers, like, it was hard. Like we had to do it because it needed to be done, but it was like hard to make connections with certain texts that we had to read. But I find now that there's more awareness with that, and then in some schools they're being more intentional with making sure that reading is fun, right? Engaging the kids in making it interactive as well, which is key. And what that needs to continue, bringing more representation, different cultures, different backgrounds, bringing that with, not only in history we're learning that, and making it fun, like having celebrations. Like I know when I was in a classroom, and that was the first time I learned about it, but I enjoyed it, where we had the reading and writing workshop. But so like within weeks we worked on it, like the editing, the brainstorming, outline brainstorming, editing the text together, and then at the end, having when it's publishing time, we had a party. So it's like a social where, and the kids had an option to go up and read their stories, and we celebrate them. I feel like that needs to continue. So once the children see that the literacy, reading and writing is being celebrated, then less children will shy away from that. And even if they struggle, they'll have opportunity to grow in that area and build more confidence.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. We've seen that. And you talk about it a lot, right? I mean, we need to make sure that youth are in a space where they feel safe, where they feel empowered, where they feel like
Right.
they can, you know, be themselves
Be
and
themselves, correct.
thrive, right? And this topic of equity in education is really a major theme throughout your work.
Correct.
Right? So, what's missing, do you think, in this conversation? Because we know what it looks like in practice, right? And we know all of the work that you're advocating for. But I still feel like there are these misconceptions about what equity in education looks like. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Okay, I would say definitely based on my experience and community environment, hearing different insights. 'Cause I love to hear from different perspective, different people as well, whether it's from their experience or like growing up as a child and then them doing the work. We definitely need more support in the school. I actually had a conversation recently with someone that I'm working with, and we were saying that we need more of that. We need more of people that are passionate about children within the schools and the communities, so that way we fill in the gap. Sometimes people just get discouraged. I feel like maybe I'm talking about the adults, educators, or whoever it is that support children. I feel like sometimes they probably feel overwhelmed and drained because of the amount, especially in an urban environment, the amount of students, and they all have their needs, but it's not really, it's difficult to meet the needs of all the children. We're going to be realistic. It's difficult, right? If you have a certain amount of students in your classroom and you're one teacher or even two, and there's so many different needs. So it's like, what do we do as a whole, as a community, to make sure that we fill in the gaps? Like whether it's during the day in school, maybe having schools could have people come in to support the teachers within the classroom, right? Or maybe during lunchtime, like with research. I don't, just being more intentional with filling the gaps, because yes, it's academics, but it's also social. We have to think about the social needs of the children as well, and basic life skills. So I feel like there's different ways we can integrate services within the day or after school, so that way teachers don't have to feel so overwhelmed and they feel like they're being supported as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we've made progress in many ways, but there's so much more work that needs to be done. And I'm even thinking about
Definitely.
post-COVID,
Post
you know,
COVID, yes.
how that impacted everything. Because
Yeah.
let's go back. I don't think we've talked about this a lot. Let's go back to COVID and you being in the classrooms, right? What did you notice? What did you see? What was that like?
Okay. You said post COVID?
And during COVID, like
During, okay.
maybe
So
right.
during COVID, I my last position was a school counselor with the public schools. And I would say just the students still needed help. They need that support because again, families could get caught up with bills, right? The reality of life, bills, and they have to work. So certain needs weren't met at home because of that. It's not that they didn't want to. So I just felt like again the kids needed more of intervention poured in, as I've said, like within the schools, so that way they can speak their mind and get the support that they need to make better choices. Um, so during, and then that was before, right? So then during COVID, that's another thing. Like again, a lot of uncertainty. Parents were lost. You don't know what to tell the children if they had their questions. So everyone was lost and confused, and it was just harder for the youth. Like there were times that kids were not showing up for the sessions, for me to even have a conversation with them. Um, and then it was just hard because they were so used to having that routine, waking up, going out to school. Now you're home. So it's like, okay, I could stay in bed later. I could stay in bed, and then we couldn't go anywhere. So even after school's done, virtual school's done, you're still stuck in the house. So I felt like it was just a lot of draining, mentally draining for everyone. So it was a really difficult time. It was a really difficult time from what I've noticed. And then I had to resign, but I was working with my children to get them in. And then it was virtual, so I still had some insight and see what's going on. So I just felt like again, there was a lack of motivation. There was a lack. It was really hard to get the kids motivated to continue with the learning during that time.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. So many things were just shifting, and there was this expectation that, you know, we would go back as normal, right? People would know
Right.
automatically how to work a computer. Automatically, young people could be expected to just sit in front of the computer all
Yeah,
day.
that's
All of these shifts.
right. Yes, you could be in front of the computer like after school doing the homework, but now this was the whole day
Mm,
because after virtual learning, you had work to do, schoolwork to do. So then you had to spend some time on the computer again, and even post COVID, going back into the schools, they still had that, which I
Mhm.
was concerned. Like, I'm pretty sure like other parents were. It's like that's too much screen time for the child. Yeah, they're not watching something fun, but still, the whole point of TV, when we say screen time, minimize it, but now it's like they're doing it everything on the screen.
Mhm.
So I was concerned and still concerned, because I feel like that was something like I'm hearing. I don't see packets were really coming home up until, well, no, last year I did. They had workbooks and packets come. I'm like, all right, that's better. At least they could have some time away from the screen.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's something that we have to think about too, like the screen time. Yeah.
To think about it. And what makes you so unique and thoughtfully positioned to tackle these things is that you hold degrees in education, leadership, and counseling. You've been in the
Yeah.
classroom, you do curriculum, publishing, mentoring, and as a mom, you've experienced all of these things in so many different angles. So
Angles. Yeah.
you know, eh, what can you do for a school? If a school is interested in getting services from you, whether it's leadership development, whether it's having you work with the kids, what sorts of things can you offer for people if they
Definitely.
want to work with you?
Yeah. I would say definitely speaking and just empowerment. They could definitely have me come in for professional development with the staff, just giving different perspectives, and also not just that, but also if they need me to come in and model and work with the teachers, I can also come in, especially with the primary grades, because the kids can be needy, right? I've learned that early on in my career is like you really had to work harder the first couple of weeks when they come in, training them and teaching them this is what it looks like, this is what they need, this is what they could do, because it's new to them. And now teachers have to understand it's going to be a little bit more challenging because we're talking about the pandemic. Like a lot of the kids were home. There's lack of fine motor skills. There's a lot of skills lacking. So that means the patience, the power of patience. It's gonna have to tackle in, and they're going to need guidance. So I can definitely come in and support the teachers, not just teaching them, but also modeling what it could look like and helping them brainstorm together so that way they can have a productive year. And also with the leaders, if they need training, I could come in as well and giving them different perspective on ways they can support their teachers. Because sometimes there's some certain things are overlooked because the job entails a lot. There's so many things put in front of the admins that they may overlook certain needs. So I would gladly come in to talk about it and say what it looks like and how they could support their staff, because that's important as well. We want to make sure that the teachers' mental health are good and they feel empowered so that way they can go into the classroom feeling empowered and empower the students.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. And schools would be so lucky to hear from you because you have all of this history and background, and will of course include links to all of your, all of
Yes,
your sites and information. But um, I really want to emphasize for people that it's so important to hear from educators themselves, and that's who you are, right?
yes,
That is key. We can have people come in and talk about, how to be, a good teacher, how to do all these things, but to hear from somebody in this space who's also somebody that's just a champion for equity in early childhood education. I mean, hearing from you is vital, right?
yes, yeah.
That's so important. And
They'll feel it. And I wanted to add this too, also with parents. Like, 'cause I know
sure.
they have the PT, they have the coordinators, parent coordinators, they have others, but they need support as well. And I can also work with them coming in and pouring into parents because it's very hard and I can relate.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It's not an easy journey,
Not
but
easy.
we can't give up. That's one thing. We can't give up. And even as parents, we have to also have the power of patience. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to hear a bit of advice that you have, right? What advice would you give women who maybe want to step into authorship, that want to get into entrepreneurship, that want to do speaking, but they don't know where to start?
All right. I would say first, just find your purpose, right? What is your purpose? What is your vision? What do you want when people hear from you and they see you? What do you want them to see and get out of it? That's number one. And then also You gotta, sometimes we don't know all the answers of ourselves. We know but don't fully know. So it's good to hear from other people. What do they think about you? What do they see? Why are they friends, or what they love about you? And will help you put the puzzle pieces together and be like, oh wow, I know this about me. This is what I want to do, and this is what other people are saying. So that we can just fall into alignment and be able to walk into your purpose. That's what I would say first, you know, because again, you need to hear about from other people. What have you done that they felt empowered or they loved about you? And if they have the children's too, like talk to your children and see what they have to say about you as well. And from there, you could come up with a plan and say, okay, this is what I'll do. And it looks different for everyone. So sometimes, if you need to speak with someone, a coach, you can definitely talk with a coach too, that could help you brainstorm and see like this is what will work best and this is what it looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just getting started, taking that jump. So many
Yeah.
people are just afraid, like, what will people say? What will
Hey.
you just got to do it.
You definitely do it scared. Like there's someone, I forgot who, they was saying that you have to do it scared, and it's true. It's better than just sitting there saying stagnant. No, you got to get up and make it happen. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, it's okay. You go ahead and reflect. That's why reflection is key. You have to sit there and reflect and see, hey, this is what worked, this didn't work, and then continue from there.
Yes. You have to. You have
Yeah.
to. You know, we end every episode of Queen Me with this question. I think you and I might have talked about it very briefly, but I'm excited to hear maybe how it shifted.
Okay.
What does it mean to unleash your inner queen? And how do you tap into that power in your own life and leadership?
What does it mean to unleash? Okay.
Mm.
I would say making it happen. Like whatever the thoughts are and the vision in my head, my dreams are, is like just being able to execute it in a way of, and finding like-minded people around me, because again, there's certain things you can't do alone. I want to put that out there. There's certain things you cannot do alone. Starting the brainstorming and the thought, that's you, but actually making it happen, you'll need a team of like-minded people. So that has helped me along the way to unleash my inner power
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
making things happen.
Mm.
Alignment. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. I mean, you're really living proof that storytelling can really help shape futures.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you want people to know about you, about your work, about things coming up? Anything else that you think is important that people, maybe if they want to get to know you a little bit better or dive in more?
Well, definitely aside from the children's world, I'm also tackling to the women's world as well. Recently I launched my book called well, okay, recently I launched my book called Strengthen Every Scar, A Mother's C-Section Journey. And that tackled tons of conversation and discussion that I wasn't aware of. And I'm happy. So I'm happy. So a lot of women, aside from C-section, there's a lot of women suffering with fibroids or premenopause. And again, just a lot of conversations spark where we have work to do. There needs to be more awareness for us to understand our body, why we react a certain way, especially during time of the month. So, and again, I'm excited. I'm excited because again, me writing this book that been sitting there for 2 years. I was supposed to write this book 2 years ago, but it came through in 2025. But then it's opening doors and discussions, that we need to talk about. We need to talk about. So, and it's gonna be really helpful because I feel like we'll be better individuals as moms, as a sister, as a friend, as a teacher, whatever the title is. Once we understand ourselves better and what's maybe causing it and how we can solve that or cope with it during that time period, I feel like we'll be a better to be able to pour into people better and do our jobs better. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Through your books, your publishing, your work, you're really building a world where every child feels seen and every voice has power. Really every story matters. So to learn
Right.
more about Ruth's work, you can visit ruthfleury.com. You can go to scholarsoftomorrowpublishing.com. Follow her journey on her very active social media pages that are always exciting to see what's coming up. Author Ruth Fleury. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review because every time
Yes.
you help somebody else unleash their inner queen. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining us. We so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.